Story recapped here. Today I'm gonna explain an action, fantasy, horror, mystery, and thriller movie called Vampire Academy. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Rose Hathaway and her best friend Lissa Dragomir are two teenage vampires living undercover. 1 year prior, they have left St. Vladimir's Academy boarding school and have been traveling from one place to another ever since. Rose, a Dhampir guardian in training, vows to protect Lissa, a Moroi princess, at all times. Morois are vampire royalties who have magical powers, while Dhampirs are considered the lower rank vampires, whose sole purpose is to protect the Morois at all costs. One night in their sleep, Lissa dreams of the car accident that killed her parents and brother 2 years ago. Rose also sees the same dream, as she shares a one-sided bond with a princess. This bond means that she can also see everything Lissa does and sees. After waking up from such a horrible dream, Rose immediately rushes to Lissa's room and makes sure that she's okay. However, the princess feels weak because she hasn't consumed blood for days. Seeing how hungry Lissa is, Rose offers to feed her blood to her starving friend. A few moments later, Rose notices that the guardians of the academy are watching them from outside. The two girls quickly pack up their things and attempt to escape, but the guardians see them. Rose quickly uses her skills as a guardian trainee and fends off the threats with ease. However, a Russian Dhampir guardian named Dmitry Belikov beats Rose in combat and forcefully brings the two girls back into the academy. Upon their arrival, they get attacked by Strigois, who are the true nightmares of the Dhampirs and Morois. These monstrous counterparts are immortal vampires that only come out at night and can only be killed through a special weapon, a silver stake. Strigois are made instead of born, and only a Moroi can become this type of monster if they drain a person's blood. After a while, Dmitry and his team manage to finish the Strigois with the help of a guardian named Spiridon. They then enter St. Vladimir's Academy, a thriving educational environment for respectable vampires worldwide. Here, Morois are expected to harness elemental magic and become either fire, air, water, or earth users. Meanwhile, Dhampirs are taught hand-in-hand combat to become competent guardians for the Morois. The academy was founded by a legendary Moroi named Vladimir, who is said to have a particularly rare type of magic. The secret vampire society is quite established and have created a government that chooses a ruler based on an alternating cycle. The new ruler must come from one of the 12 royal families, and Lissa's family is one of them, making her a successor to the throne. This explains why it was such a scandal when she left the academy with Rose. Meanwhile, as the two girls enter the school grounds, they see Lissa's ex-boyfriend Aaron Drozdov, who now has a new girlfriend named Mia Rinaldi. Not long after, Rose and Lissa go to meet Ellen Kirova, the headmistress. She is furious at what the girls did, and now she wants to give them a heavy punishment to atone for their actions. However, a frail man named Viktor Dashkov suddenly walks into the room and convinces the headmistress to go easy on Lissa and Rose. Viktor is a trusted friend of Lissa's family, and the two girls are very concerned about his worsening condition. During their stay in the office, Rose realizes that a dear instructor of theirs, Miss Sonia Karp, is no longer staying in the school. Because of this, she asks Ellen to shed light on the situation, but this only angers the headmistress. In fact, she is quite displeased with Rose that she wishes to expel her from the academy. However, Lissa uses her compulsion abilities on her, which immediately drives her to withdraw the punishment. As they leave the office, Rose recalls a memory of when Lissa was yet to declare her magical ability. Lissa can manipulate all of the elements but still hasn't found her true calling. Suddenly, Miss Karp tells the princess not to worry about the situation, since she too hasn't declared her magic in the past. Miss Karp leaves shortly after, and a raven suddenly flies straight into a statue, causing itself to be injured. Here, Lissa saves the dying raven, and the instructor, Miss Sonia, witnesses the rare event from a distance. Back in the present time, the two girls resume their lives in the academy and go to their respected classes. However, Lissa isn't having such a pleasant experience since Mia and her friends are bullying her. Rose, on the other hand, goes to her training classes where she meets her old friend Mason, who has a crush on her. Not long after, Rose sees the bond and finds that Lissa is talking with Christian Ozera, a royal Moroi who happens to be the school's resident social outcast. Christian's reputation precedes him since his parents willingly turned themselves into Strigois. Like Lissa, Christian lost his parents too, so they both share a common ground. Later on, Rose harnesses her skills by attending Dimitri's special training sessions. As they train, Dimitri tells her that her bond with Lissa is rare, so she must perform well because she is the princess's ideal guardian. After this, Rose, beaten up from her training, decides to meet with Lissa. They then head for the cafeteria, where the Morois casually suck blood from their human feeders. As Lissa enjoys her time there, Rose runs into Victor, asking her to look out for his daughter Natalie. Rose and Lissa befriend Natalie, although she seems like a noisy and awkward girl. Later that night, the three of them head to the school church. Inside, they see Jesse, a Moroi who is particularly interested in Rose. On the other hand, Natalie has a crush on Jesse's friend Ray. Shortly after, the mass begins, and the priest talks about how Saint Vladimir's shadow-kissed Dhampir guardian, with whom he shares a bond, helped him overcome his trials and tribulations. Out of nowhere, the mass gets disturbed by an explosion near the church's entrance. When Lissa rushes to see what the fuss is about, she finds that someone left a horrifying threat on her family memorial. Rose suspects that Mia is responsible for this childish prank. However, Mia only pisses her off when she continues to deny the accusations. As a result of her anger, Rose acts on her impulses and sets a steamy date with Jesse. The next day, they meet and immediately start making out. However, Jesse wants to feed on her when it's against her will, but luckily, Dimitri aids to a rescue. Suddenly, Rose activates the bond again and finds that Lissa is trembling over the sight of a dead fox hanging by her door. She immediately rushes over to Lissa and calms her down. The next day, Mia makes a prank that insinuates that Lissa lived off Rose's blood when they were away from the academy. Ray and his friends also decide to butt in and worsen the situation. Christian, who happens to be in the same class, gets pissed at Ray and sets him on fire. Not long after, the scandal regarding Lissa feeding off of Rose reaches the queen, resulting in her getting ridiculed in front of the whole school. After this embarrassing incident, Natalie and Rose try to look for Lissa in her room, and they find another threat on the wall, which seems to be written with blood. Lissa enters the room a few moments later and finds the shocking display. As a result, she decides to no longer be a meek victim, and she plans on using her compulsion abilities to turn everyone against Mia. Rose is against this plan, but she fails to change her friend's mind and just leaves. On her way out, she runs into Christian, who wants to check if Lissa is okay after the incident with the queen. Something is going on between Christian and Lissa, and it's apparent to Rose that they share mutual affections. However, she isn't quite fond of Christian, so she decides to sabotage their relationship. The following day, Rose attends her regular training session with Dimitri, and she notices that she's growing fond of her instructor. Later on, they head to class, and Rose sees the bond again. As expected, Lissa uses compulsion to convince Mia's friends that the rumors about Jesse and Rose aren't true. At this point, Christian walks by and completely shuts Lissa off, which confuses her as she doesn't know that Rose sabotaged their relationship. Later that night, Natalie and Rose decide to investigate Mia's laptop, which they stole from her room. They then discover that Mia once dated Lissa's late brother Andre, who might have treated her badly. This experience would explain why Mia despises the whole Dragomir bloodline. Time passes, and Lissa continues to use her abilities, which concerns Rose because it's slowly turning her into a different person. Later on, Mason approaches Rose and reveals that Jesse and Ray have a suspicious bandage wrapped around their wrists. They decide to dive deeper into the situation and soon speculate that Mia and the headmistress are also involved in harassing Lissa. Later on, Rose decides to break into Ellen's office and hopes to find anything useful. She then finds a videotape explaining what happened to their instructor, Miss Carp. Because the tape got cut, all that Rose knows is that Miss Carp is mentally unstable. The next day at church, Rose observes Lissa as she finally earns a spot with the popular kids and even gets back together with Aaron. Mia, on the other hand, is sulking in a corner after she gets ditched by everyone. Moments after, Rose looks over to the back corner of the church and finds Christian, who also seems to be sulking. Rose decides to approach Christian and confesses that she purposely ruined his chances of winning Lissa's affections. She also asks him to help her find more information regarding Lissa's abilities, but Christian is quite upset with her, so he refuses. Later that night, Lissa throws a party where she boasts all her magical abilities. However, overly using her powers takes a toll on her health, and it manifests on Rose as well. Witnessing all of this, Rose walks out of the party, and Lissa runs after her. They get into an argument, and Lissa discovers that Rose sabotaged her relationship with Christian. Both of them are extremely upset, but then Natalie shows up and says that something is following her. Suddenly, they hear a howl from afar, and Rose suspects that it's a vicious creature known as the Psyhound. She leads the other girls to safety, and they suddenly find Lissa's backpack on top of a fountain. Inside the bag is Lissa's pet cat Oscar, who now happens to be dead. Lissa gasps at the mere sight of her beloved cat and immediately tries to revive it. However, she fails and passes out due to overusing her powers. Suddenly, massive cuts appear on Lissa's arms, which triggers a memory in Rose's head of Miss Carp telling her that she is shadow-kissed. She also remembers that it was Miss Carp who told her to run away with Lissa, for she is not safe inside the academy. However, Rose doesn't remember any of this because she was under a compulsion trance. A few days later, Rose demands to meet with a school board and reveals everything she knows. She also shares about Lissa's rare abilities and that she needs to be helped. However, the school board thinks the information is preposterous and refuses to believe her. By this time, Rose grows more agitated and soon demands the headmistress to show her the continuation of Miss Carp's videotape. The headmistress agrees, and soon after, Rose finds out that Miss Carp turned herself into a Strigois to get rid of the agonizing side effects of spirit magic, which is the same ability that Lissa has. With Miss Carp gone, Rose doesn't know who to ask for help. However, Dimitri tells her that Christian might be able to know some books that will answer all her questions. Accordingly, Rose visits Christian, and this time, she finally gets him to help her. They soon find out that Saint Vladimir also possessed spirit magic when he was alive, but the magic is extremely powerful and excruciatingly detrimental to the user's health. After their search, Rose bids Christian goodbye and leans in for a friendly hug. However, Lissa sees them and picks a fight with Christian, as she thinks they fornicated. Christian tries to explain the situation, but the princess keeps on nagging, so he swoops in for a kiss to shut her up. However, she pulls away and walks out, but Rose runs after her. The two girls then get into a heated argument, but Rose steps into a hole halfway through the conversation and busts her bone out of her ankle. A few hours after, Rose wakes up in a hospital and finds that her ankle is healed. She immediately gets up and reconciles with her best friend. Suddenly, Ellen, the headmistress, shows up after hearing that Lissa really possesses spirit magic and soon forbids them from going to the Equinox dance. Luckily, Victor and Natalie convince the headmistress to let them go. Later on, Victor arranges a shopping spree for the three girls, where Dimitri and Spiridon will accompany them. When they get back to the academy, Natalie gives Rose the necklace that she's been eyeing in the mall, and says that it's a gift of gratitude from her father for keeping her safe. At the Equinox dance, Rose discovers that Mia isn't responsible for killing Lissa's cat, which means that a bigger threat is out there. Meanwhile, Lissa reconciles with Christian, but Mia suddenly interrupts them and lashes out. As a result, Lissa leaves the dance, and Rose knocks Mia out. Because of her misconduct, the Guardians lock Rose into a room and ban her from attending the dance. Suddenly, she sees the bond and finds that Lissa is being kidnapped. Not long after, the headmistress walks into the room to sedate Rose, but she ends up sedating herself instead. Rose immediately escapes and rushes into Dimitri's quarters, only to get distracted. The situation gradually escalates, and they begin to make love. However, Dimitri realizes that the necklace has a charm, and so he breaks it off Rose's neck, where she immediately gets a grip of her senses. Right away, Dimitri brings Rose and a fellow guardian to go and find Lissa. Rose discovers that Christian has snuck in the car because he also wants to help with the rescue mission. However, she pays him no heed and proceeds to activate the bond to try and locate where Lissa is. In her vision, Rose discovers that Victor is the man behind the abduction, and Spiridon is his ally. Because he has contracted a chronic illness, Victor, who's supposed to be in line for the throne, now needs Lissa's spirit magic to get his title back. However, healing the old man would mean that Lissa must sacrifice her own life. At first, the princess refuses to do what he wants, but she gets tortured and eventually cooperates. Lissa quickly loses consciousness while Victor regains his strength. Not long after, Dimitri and the team arrive at Victor's house and immediately fights off the guards. Meanwhile, Lissa is actually alive, and she escapes the place by herself. Seeing the situation, Victor releases his Psyhounds and sends a chopper to take Lissa away. But the plan fails when Rose and Christian knock off the pilot. Suddenly, Christian gets shot by Victor and attempts to shoot Rose next, but he fails when Dimitri pins him down. To their surprise, Victor summons the Psy Hounds, but Christian quickly uses his remaining energy to burn the hounds down. Seeing that Christian is about to die, Rose offers her blood so Lissa can use her spirit magic. Quickly after, she manages to heal Christian, but she loses consciousness along with Rose. The next day, Victor gets placed in a secured cell, and Rose goes down to talk to him. In the middle of their conversation, Natalie shows up and has now become a mindless monster. She sets Victor free and soon explains how she willingly turned herself into a Strigois by draining Ray's blood. She also claims to be the one who killed Lissa's cat, Oscar. She then continues to attack Rose, but eventually loses after Dimitri stabs her with a silver stake. Meanwhile, Victor wasn't able to escape either, since Dimitri was able to knock him off beforehand. A few days later, as Queen Tatiana gives her speech, Lissa steps in to share a speech of her own. She announces her declared magic, Spirit, and talks about how Morois and Dhampirs are equal. She also thanks Rose for always having her back. A few moments later, Rose meets up with Dimitri and he confesses his feelings for her. However, they can't be together because of their duties as guardians. Rose then gives him a sweet kiss on the cheek and leaves. Now, all seems peaceful for everyone in the academy. However, little do they know that in a mountain cave nearby, Sonia Karp and her horde of Strigois are ready to attack.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.